Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We sift through sources, pull out the gold, and get you up to speed. Fast.
And today we've got a book that should really resonate with, with our community, especially folks in the cash flow circle, connecting through BondRentalProp and places like that.
Exactly. We're digging into one rental at a time, the journey to financial independence through real estate. Michael Zuber's book. But this isn't just a book report.
No, definitely not.
Our mission today is to figure out, okay, who in our community specifically is this book really for? What are the absolute, core lessons from his journey? And maybe most importantly, what questions should it make us ask ourselves to, guide our own investing?
Yeah, pulling out the practical wisdom, stuff you can actually use depending on where you are right now.
All right, so let's start with who this book is aimed at. Zuber's pretty upfront about it, isn't he?
Oh yeah, very clear. He basically says, look, I wanted to show someone starting with zero special advantages, no family money, no fancy system, someone who built this portfolio piece by piece while holding down a regular job, and then eventually was able to leave that job because of the real estate.
He says it's for all the folks who want to see that it is possible to work a full-time job, invest over time, and retire at a young age. That's pretty direct.
Totally. It's all about helping full-time employees see what's possible, giving them hope, really, real achievable hope.
And I think that hits home for so many of us, right? If you're listening, chances are you're juggling a demanding job. Maybe feeling that cash-rich, asset-poor thing he talks about, CRAP.
Ah, yeah, the CRED acronym.
You've got decent income, but it's not building wealth, not really. You want that path to financial independence, but time's tight, energy's low. Maybe you even think you need some secret connection.
Well, if that sounds familiar, Zuber is talking right to you. His story works because it's relatable. He shows you can build real wealth, enough to quit your job without needing some, magic formula or insider track.
Just consistent effort and smart moves over time, using things like the regular MLS, which is accessible to everyone.
And exactly, it proves it's possible.
Okay, so that leads us to the lessons.
Mm-hmm.
What are the big takeaways from his journey? And one of the first ones is maybe a bit of a reality check.
Definitely. The sheer length of the commitment. This isn't a get-rich-quick thing at all.
Right. He and his wife, Olivia, it took them nearly, 2 decades?
Almost 20 years, yeah. 20 years of consistently investing to build that portfolio up to where they could both retire.
Yeah.
That's a long haul.
And that time frame really underscores the need for patience and being totally aligned with your partner. He really stresses that, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely critical. You have to be on the same page. Because it takes time, there will be sacrifices, things will test you. You need that shared belief, especially early on when it feels like you're barely moving.
Constant affirmation, he calls it.
Yeah. And over that kind of time frame, you naturally have to adapt. You can't just stick with the first strategy you learned.
Like the 1% rule. He talks about using that initially. Buy for $100K, rent for $1 a month. Simple rule.
Right. He admits he started there. But, after years in the game, he found it too simplistic. Sometimes even risky, depending on the market.
So they evolved. One big shift was realizing they didn't have to invest just 30 minutes from home.
Yeah, that was huge for them. Expanding the search area, maybe within a day's drive, opened up whole new markets. Markets that actually met their criteria. That's how they found Fresno, for example.
But he throws in a major warning there.
Always. Never, ever invest somewhere you aren't willing to physically go visit. You need to see it, feel it.
Get boots on the ground. Understand the local vibe.
Exactly. You can't get that just from numbers on a screen. And it wasn't just geography. They also changed how they compared deals, moved beyond the 1% rule to look at yield or return on cash invested, a clearer picture.
Makes sense. And adapting usually means learning to spot the dangers too, which brings us to maybe his most famous concept. The alligator property.
Ah, yes, the alligator. This is non-negotiable for him. It's a property with negative cash flow, one you have to feed with your own money every single month.
Just eating your cash.
Precisely. And his strongest advice, the one thing he hammers home, is never, ever buy an alligator. And just as important, never create one through refinancing or bad management.
He says holding cash is better. Period.
Unequivocally. And they learned this firsthand, didn't they? That first property, Norris Drive.
Oh, yeah. Tenant nightmares, eviction, damage. The whole learning curve.
But the biggest mistake there was refinancing, pulling cash out, and bam, suddenly it was losing money every month. They turned their own property into an alligator.
Ouch. But even that pain led to something useful later.
It did. That equity they still had, even in that problem property. They used a 1031 exchange deferred the taxes, rolled it into a bigger cash-flowing asset, a 5-unit building, I think.
Wow. So turning a negative into a much bigger positive. That's a key move.
Huge acceleration for them. Shows how overcoming those early struggles can really pay off.
He also gives us like a checklist for spotting when a market is getting too hot. Things we should all watch out for.
Yeah, really practical stuff, like suddenly seeing tons of new real estate agents everywhere.
Yeah.
Or lots of low down payment loans being pushed.
When everyone's talking about flipping, not holding.
Yeah.
People quitting their jobs to become flippers overnight.
High rates of cash out refis, buyers way outnumbering sellers, crazy bidding wars. If you see that stuff, it's a warning sign.
And the wisdom there is
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to hit pause.
Exactly. Step back. Maybe don't buy anything for a year, even if everyone else seems to be rushing in. Buying just because of FOMO is dangerous if the deals themselves don't pencil out on your terms.
He also flags some common newbie mistakes, things he saw or maybe even did himself early on.
Oh, yeah, like fudging the numbers on your spreadsheet to make a deal look better than it is. Basically lying to yourself.
Don't create spreadsheet alligators either.
Right. Or not having real cash reserves set aside for repairs or vacancies, and then making it worse by dipping into what little you do have to chase the next deal.
And the emotional side too, getting too caught up in tenant drama.
Big one. He says you need systems, policies, standard late rent notices, things like that. Don't get sucked into the emotion. It's a massive time sink, especially if you have a day job.
He also warns that prices don't go up forever. Shocker, right?
Yeah. And a big red flag is seeing prices shoot up while rents stay flat or barely move. That gap isn't sustainable.
And he saw specific mindsets that just lead to failure, especially when the market turns.
Like quitting your job before the real estate income is solid and proven. Banks lend to W-2 employees, remember?
Or investing purely based on hope. Oh, prices will double in 2 years. That's speculation, not investing.
Feeling rushed, maybe buy 5 houses this weekend. Or just blindly believing the market never goes down. Famous last words.
These are all lessons learned in the trenches, right? Watching what works and what crashes and burns.
Definitely. So, okay, if he's warning against hype and crazy schemes, how did he actually find deals? What was his method?
Well, his secret, as he calls it, wasn't much of the secret. He mostly used the plain old public MLS, the multiple listing service.
No kidding, just the regular MLS.
Yep. His strategy was simple discipline. Check it constantly, know his numbers, and be ready to write offers on properties that met his yield criteria. No special access needed, just hard work and consistency.
And he has that homework assignment to build that skill, doesn't he? The 50 property research task.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Pick a market, analyze 50 listings, write down asking price, estimated repair costs, projected rent, calculate the return, then rank them.
And he's super clear about what not to focus on in that analysis.
Right. Forget the fancy finishes, the exact square footage, the crown molding. Focus on what drives rent. Bedrooms, bathrooms, parking, functional layout.
Do that homework, he says, and you build confidence. You start to just know when you see a listing if it's likely a good deal or not for that market. Takes the guesswork out.
And another key tip, keep studying the market, even when you don't have cash for a down payment.
Ah, that's interesting. Why then?
Because the pressure's off. It's the perfect time to just observe. See how long things sit, what prices they actually sell for, what rents are doing. You learn the market's rhythm without the stress of needing to buy now.
Smart. He also found deals in tougher times, right? Like with REOs, bank-owned stuff.
Yeah, during downturns. His strategy wasn't fancy there either. It was about building relationships with the agents handling those REOs. Being known as a reliable buyer who could close fast.
Because the banks just wanted those properties off their books, especially end of month. So reliability was key.
Exactly. And buying those REOs, often way below replacement cost, what it would cost to build it new, gave them a built-in upside when the market recovered.
Okay, so finding deals was about consistency and relationships. What about financing? How did they get the capital, especially early on?
They explored different avenues. He mentions using 401k loans a couple of times, though he's careful about the risks. Like needing to repay fast if you lose your job.
Right, that can be tricky.
He even considered a car loan at one point, just thinking outside the box for capital.
Wow. But as they scaled up, moved into bigger buildings, 5+ units, they shifted strategy again, didn't they?
Yeah, they moved into commercial financing, different ballgame. Less about your personal income, more about the property's income potential to cover the loan. And that market was actually less competitive during the single-family frenzy.
Interesting. And when credit got tight, generally?
They looked at alternatives. Hard money, fast cash, high rates, asset-focused. and private money lenders.
Which led to his specific program for private lenders, right? The 6% and 20%.
Exactly. Often used for their slumlord to pride of ownership flips. Key thing was he always put his own money in first, made sure the lender was secure, gave him a solid return, built trust, win-win.
But underlying all that is a philosophy of conservative financing, especially for busy folks.
Totally. Maybe putting down more cash than strictly necessary. Might mean slower growth, maybe lower initial returns on paper compared to mass leverage.
Right.
But it creates a portfolio that's much more stable, less likely to cause stress during downturns, needs less active management, lets you sleep at night, basically. Huge for someone with a demanding job.
That focus on reducing stress ties into the mindset stuff, too, which is a huge part of the book. It's not just tactics.
Oh, definitely. He really digs into understanding your deep emotional why. Why are you really doing this?
Because just making money probably isn't enough to get you through the hard times, is it?
Nope. It needs to be personal, powerful, something you can revisit when things get tough. And that why connects directly to getting your partner fully on board.
Having those honest, maybe difficult conversations up front about the risks, sacrifices, the shared vision, it's non-negotiable.
He also talks about setting goals like base camps on a climb.
Yeah, breaking the huge goal of financial independence down into smaller, achievable steps. And this is important, celebrating those small wins along the way. Keeps the energy up. Do an annual review, too.
Well, there's that fundamental shift from the employee mindset.
Right. Earning just to spend, often on things that lose value, cars, gadgets.
Versus the asset-rich, cash-happy goal. Earning to invest, buy assets that produce income and grow. It's a totally different way of thinking about money.
He also brings up return on time, especially crucial for busy professionals.
Yeah. Sometimes paying a bit more for a property that needs less work is the smarter move, even if the initial numbers look slightly worse. Because your time is valuable, maybe more valuable than that extra bit of cash flow.
Saves you headaches down the road.
And despite all the numbers, he keeps coming back to the idea that real estate is a people business.
Reputation matters. Building good relationships with your team, contractors, managers, agents, lenders. Being known as honest and reliable opens doors.
Like with those REO agents. His reputation got him deals.
And finally, he gets really personal about what happened after they hit financial independence and retired. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows immediately.
No, he talks about struggling with that transition, feeling a bit lost, even depressed, unlinking his self-worth from his job title.
Finding a new purpose became key, which led him to the One Rental at a Time mission, the YouTube channel, the book, helping others do what he did.
And it's interesting how he even refined the goal for newcomers, not just financial freedom, but get to 4.
Yeah, makes it feel more concrete, less overwhelming as a starting point. Get those first 4 properties.
Okay, so pulling all these lessons together, what questions should we be asking ourselves right now? Especially those of us in the cash flow circle working towards similar goals.
This is where we turn it inward. Based on Zuber's journey, first question has to be, what is my real deep why? Is it strong enough to push through the tough stuff?
And is my partner truly fully on board? Have we had those tough talks about sacrifices and the long road ahead?
Am I willing to do the unglamorous work, like that 50 property homework? Really learn a market inside out, even before I have the money to buy?
How honest am I being with my numbers? Am I accidentally creating alligator properties on my spreadsheet just because I want the deal to work?
Am I mentally prepped for landlord realities, the late night calls, the tenant issues, the repairs? How will I handle that alongside my job?
Am I actively trying to build relationships and a good reputation in my chosen market?
What are my short-term base camps, my smaller goals, and how am I going to recognize hitting them, celebrate them?
Am I consciously trying to ditch that earn-to-spend habit and really embrace the earn-to-invest mindset, prioritizing assets?
Am I factoring in my own time? Am I valuing return on time enough, especially being busy? Or am I just chasing the absolute cheapest deal regardless of the time suck?
Am I letting market noise, hype, fear, what everyone else is doing override my own research and my core principles like never buying an alligator?
And crucially, am I prepared to hit pause? To sit on the sidelines if the deals just don't make sense right now, trusting my analysis over the pressure to constantly be buying?
Whew. Those are some powerful questions. They come directly out of his real-world experience, and they really force you to check if your mindset and approach match the reality of this path.
Yeah, and his whole platform now, the book, the channel, it's all aimed at helping busy professionals navigate this. It aligns so well with what folks in our community are trying to achieve.
So wrapping this deep dive up, the big message from one rental at a time seems clear. Yeah, you can achieve financial independence through real estate while working full-time. It's possible.
But it's not quick or easy. It takes patience, discipline, learning constantly, adapting as you go, sticking to solid principles, especially avoiding those alligators, and having that powerful why to keep you going for the long haul.
So maybe the final thought to leave everyone with, something drawn right from the book's core ideas is this. Are you letting a middle-class mindset, focused on earning mainly to spend, hold you back?
Or are you actively working right now to adopt the principles of the asset rich, focusing your energy and resources on building productive assets no matter where you're starting from?
Something to chew on. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Until next time.